everyone, and welcome to the latest video from my DCG Student Assignment series. In this video we will be looking at Output 8, the presentation of the modification or concept design. In particular, we'll be looking at the Output 8 requirements, the general Output 8 sketching tips, and a sample layout for your Output 8. Okay, so as always, the first thing we'll take a look at is the marking scheme so that we know what we're trying to achieve. The first thing here we look at is the amount of marks going for Output 8 is 10, okay? The number of pages we're looking for is 1, and then the percentage of the overall student assignment marks given for Output 8 is 6.25%, okay? So that's how much you'll get if you get full marks in this part of the assignment. Then if we have a look here, you'll see that the marking scheme is really similar to Output 1 and Output 2 in the way that it's laid out, okay? So up here in the top, it gives the title of the output and then the different criteria that will be considered when correcting your assignment. I'll look at those in more detail later in the video. But then if we have a look down here in the way that the marks are actually given, we'll see that there are 5 different sections, okay, and they have 2 different criteria in each. So the first half of each one of the sections is the criteria that you've considered, all the way from extensive down to only having 1. And then presentation then is the second part, all the way from excellent presentation down to poor presentation. Now if we look at the first one here, you'll see that for extensive range of relevant criteria considered, you get 9 marks. And for excellent presentation, it gets you up to the 10, which shows that the presentation aspect of it is 1 mark, okay, compared to the 9 marks for the first part of the criteria. So now we'll take a closer look at the Output 8 requirements. Okay, so the first thing is we need to have a freehand graphical representation of our design, and that design must be a progression from Output 7. Okay, so your Output 8 is really taking everything that you've done in your Output 7 and then moving it on into your Output 8, okay? If you have Output 8 as just something on its own, then it won't really fulfill what it's looking for. It's trying to show off the design that you've come up with in Output 7. What's important with that freehand graphical representation then is the proportion, the form and volume, and the use of tone, which is color really, for effective rendering, okay? So it's important that your freehand graphical representation is really well rendered, okay? Now that can be with pencil, it can be with paint, it can be with coloring pencils, whatever you like, so long as you get a realistic graphical representation, okay? So you're trying to make it look as real as possible. You want to give a detailed communication of the modified concept design features. So what you're looking for is you're communicating in as good a way as you possibly can. So you're communicating through your sketches, but also through your annotations, okay? So that communication is sketches, so you'll have your images, okay, and also your annotation, okay. That's how you're effectively talking about your concept design, okay. So those together will do that. And the third thing then is excellent layout and presentation, which is what we're always thinking about when we're doing our student assignment anyway. Then the final thing just down here is that the sketches must not be scanned. So the sketches have to be original sketches, they can't be scanned. The ones you hand up will be the ones that you drew. In other outputs you can scan them, but not in this one. So now let's take a closer look at the sketches that you need to have in your Output 8. So the first one is going to be your large 3D image, which I spoke about earlier. That's going to be a large pictorial view of your design from the angle which you feel shows it off the best. Then we're going to have a sketch for each one of the requirements that we outlined in your Output 7, okay? These requirements, as I said in the Output 7 video, are absolutely vital to link all of your student assignment together. And now that you've come up with them, you're going to talk about them with your final design. So in Output 7, you'll have chosen what aspect of each one of your possible solutions you're going to be using for each one of the requirements. So what you're going to do in this page is you're going to show in detailed sketches how exactly you've implemented your design solutions into your final design. So we have 1 for each of the 5, and also with annotation, which I'll speak about later. The requirements are from Output 7, and every sketch requires annotations and must be rendered. Okay, so you need to have your annotations and you need to render every sketch that you do. So here are a few general sketching hints and tips. So the first one is, if you find sketching difficult, wait until after output 9 and use those views as a guide to help your sketching. So in output 9 you're going to have working drawings and you're going to have photorealistic views. Now you can use those to figure out your proportion and the sizes of things for your sketches in output 8. Okay, so there's no harm if you're not too confident with your sketching to wait until after output 9 to do that. Then the second thing then is to use coloring pencils, because it's the easiest way to show light and to show dark. It's quite difficult to show different light parts of your object and dark parts when you're doing your rendering if you use markers, okay, or crayons. Coloring pencils can be the easiest way of doing it. You can also use paints, but again, that's a little bit more specialized. If you're able to use it, fantastic. If you're not, the coloring pencils will be the way to go. Sketch and stick on. So this is all about, in output 8, all of your sketches need to be original, okay? And what that just means is that you can't scan it in and then place it onto your page. So what you can do is you can sketch on lots of different pages and then just stick them onto one A3 page. And that will just mean that you won't be under as much pressure when you're doing your sketches to have them perfect, because you can't use more than one page, okay? Whereas if you do it like this, you can do them on separate sheets, and if you make a mistake, you can just do another one and stick it onto your final A3 sheet. But the important thing is that the original ones are the ones that are handed up. The fourth thing then is to do each sketch many times and choose the best, okay? So for people that aren't that great at sketching, aren't that confident with sketching more so, doing it many times can really make your sketch better, because you'll realize each time that you do it mistakes that you're making and ways that you can improve them. Every time you do the sketch, the next time will be better, and the next time will be better until you get to a standard that you're happy with. The fifth thing is to use good quality paper. If you use very light paper, it's very difficult to sketch properly, especially in terms of your light and your dark parts of your sketch, okay? That's particularly relevant here with the coloring pencils. If you're using coloring pencils on bad paper, they won't come out as well as if you use good quality paper, okay? The last thing then is that the best sketch in the world is useless without a purpose. So if you're just sketching something for the sake of it so that it'll look nice, you won't get the marks for that, because you're not really explaining anything, okay? Every sketch that you put onto this sheet should be explaining something about your design. And again, just to reiterate it, they need to be original sketches when you hand them up in your portfolio. Now that we've looked at the sketches that you need, let's have a look at the annotation that you need to put in. Now, annotation in this output will make or break how you talk about your design, okay? If you only had sketches and you didn't have annotations, it just wouldn't be enough. If you have really good annotations, it will be really helpful to the person looking at it to see exactly what it is your design has. Your best chance of communicating your design is by making sure that the annotations that are with your sketches are as descriptive but also as concise as they can be, so that it's very easy for somebody to read it. So the first thing is that you must refer to the 5 requirements from output 7 when explaining each sketch, okay? So that's every sketch, okay? It's not just one of your requirements for a few of them. It's every single sketch you do, you need to talk about one of the or more of the requirements that you've fulfilled in that design decision. They need to be clear and concise, so no extra words and sentences that aren't vital to your explanation. Okay, you don't need paragraphs, you just need a sentence or two explaining how you fulfill the requirement and any other information that you want to give the viewer. Then you want them to be handwritten in upper and lowercase letters. So as I've said before when I was talking about output 3, you would naturally write in upper and lowercase letters, so do that in this output, but don't use joined writing, okay? So upper and lowercase, but not joined. Then use a black pen or a marker, just because that's the clearest way of doing it for somebody to see it and to read it. Okay, it'll be very easy to read if it's in your black pen or your marker. Then the annotation should always be very close to the sketch. So you don't want to have an annotation for your sketch anywhere else on your page other than directly beside that sketch, okay, because it'll be very easy to follow then if it's directly beside. You really don't want to have an arrow from an annotation going to a sketch, okay? It just doesn't look very well, and it will mess up your layout in your presentation. Just have your sketches and then your annotations directly beside them. Then always with your annotation and with your sketches, you want to ask yourself the question, if you give your output 8 to someone who's never seen your design before, okay, and that know nothing about computer mice or whatever it is that you're designing for your year, will they understand how it works by looking only at the sketches and annotations that you've drawn? Those sketches and annotations need to tell the whole story about your design so that the person can see exactly what it is, what it's trying to fulfill, and how it's fulfilling those criteria that you've set out. Finally then, this is the layout I would suggest for your output 8. So the first thing is your large 3D sketch is going to be the largest sketch on your page, and it needs to have prominence over the rest of them because it's the most required sketch, and it's the one that's going to show everything together. Okay, so that's going to be given a large amount of space over here on the left. Then we have each one of the requirements. Okay, so requirement 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with its annotations. Now, depending on the requirement and the design solution that you've chosen for each one of those requirements, you can change the sizes of these boxes. Okay, so maybe requirement 1 is only a small requirement compared to requirement 5, so you might give requirement 5 extra space. But that's up to you and up to how you made your design decisions. Then it's vital that every single one of your requirements and the sketches that you have for those have annotations explaining what it is that your design has and how it fulfills each one of those requirements. So that brings us to the end of this video on output 8. I hope you enjoyed it and that you will be able to use the information I gave to you in it to do a really good job with your output 8. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below and subscribe to the DCGist to be the first to see any new videos. You can also follow me on Twitter at the DCGist or on facebook.com/the DCGist. Best of luck with your output 8 and I'll see you later.